G'day, folks. It's the coach here. Hope you are all stomping around the mortal realms. It is Sons of Behemat. I had to quickly realize that I had Seraphon still up there as my little image. But we are talking Sons, and I have Horacio, and I'm saying it early because I know I will butcher Horacio's name, but Horacio has been stomping the mortal realms. I am very excited to hear about his experience at Summer Slaughter. It was probably one of the largest Age of Sigmar events we've had so far in 3rd edition, and Sons are the big bad guy. So if you're listening to this as an opponent, how do I beat Sons? You're going to hear some tips and tricks that you might help you get a Gargant off an objective. And if you're obviously a Sons player, we're going to talk a bit about some of the crazy list science that Horacio has been playing with, what we've learnt so far. Obviously, you all know I've been playing Gargants. I played it in 2nd edition, got that Warhammer community article, doing pretty well. But what has happened between editions? But Horacio, before we get into all the meat and the potatoes, do you want to give an introduction to yourself and obviously what got you into the Gargants?
Well, first and foremost, Coach, thank you again for having me. I've been such a follower for a long time, and it's awesome to be able to contribute to one of your episodes. To everyone else, hello, everyone. My name is Horacio Rivas. I've been in the hobby for over 25 years, and I'm mostly a hobbyist that has found a new love for the competitive side of the hobby. Due to my job, I move quite often, and Warhammer has been like a key thing in my life to meet new people all over the world. I've been to Italy, I was there for 3 years, and the first thing I did, Google Warhammer near me, and found some amazing people there, which I'm still in contact with. I'm currently in the Virginia area, and I'm part of the Victory Gamers Club, which is currently 11 on the ITC, and I've been blessed. I have some amazing players that just teach me the hard lessons. To name a few, Anthony Trentinelli, currently #1, James O'Brien, #2 on the ITC, Gary Mulhoney, the creator of Best Coastal Parents, So I just get pounded every week.
You come from the school of hard knocks. You have come,
yes.
and it's funny you say that, because when I got into competitive Age of Sigmar, so I played fantasy battles for 20 odd years, and I never had been to a tournament. I'd lived in a small country town for a lot of my upbringing and my Warhammer career. And when I moved to Sydney, and my friend was, getting me into tournaments, I'm like, right, how do I do this? And at the time, that's exactly what I did. I found the best local players, and I challenged them, and I said, I want to play you because I want to see what you do. And then I made it very obvious right at the end. I said, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Where did I lose the game? And over those little tips and tricks I picked up, I'm like, right, cool. Now I can implement that, and I became a much better player. So, don't dodge those really tough players. And I've been told I need to get Anthony on the channel once or twice already. So I might need to reach out for a connection. And, before we get into it, thank you, Poet, again, a man of many gold coins that he's just given to me instead of me taking it and piling in and stuffing it in my bag. So much appreciated. And like you, Gargants and Warhammer has just been such an awesome opportunity for me to go out there and play people and meet people. And it's a common language that we all have. But what got you into Gargants? What got you into the Sons? Because you and I picked it up around the same time, and we were talking a little bit earlier before we went live, is we picked it up in the hot trash time when people gave it no love. It was, the worst battle tome in history. And here we are today, the big bad guys of Age of Sigmar 3.
So with me, I just immediately fell in love when I saw the army and the initial snippets, of like those little Sigmarines running away from this big giant. And then really, and again, I feel bad because I keep like pumping your ego, but like immediately, we talked about it, right? I just look for content creators, and that's actually how I found you. You were starting putting some content regarding the Giants, and I just started following you, and then looking at your tournament brief downs, where you sit with the other players and you started talking about what you did well or not. And after that, I started watching Vince Venturella and everything that he's doing on the hobby side, painting side, transformation side with his Dark Mechanicum giants and all this stuff. So from the get-go, that's what got me into it. And I've been in love ever since, I gotta say.
I jumped onto it the minute that I saw it. I think it was at the Adepticon, when Adepticon got cancelled, I think it was, and they showed off the preview of the army. I saw it and I fell in love, and I'm like, right, I've been playing a lot of Horde armies, whether it's been Gits, whether it's been Cities of Sigmar, even Legion of Nagash. I was playing with, lots of Skellies and Direwolves. And when I saw this, I'm like, right, I'm going to play Gargants, whether they're good, they're bad, whatever. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to convert them. And I know the most frustrating part for me at the time was Sons, the Man Crushers were all out of stock. Little did we know they were getting reboxed, for 6 months. But I couldn't get my hands. I wanted to get my hands on the Man Crushers before the big boys, so I was ready to go. But I think you hit the nail on the head. The conversion opportunity and the creativity that I've seen in Sons has been second to none. I know you were talking a little bit earlier before we went online about like endless spells.
That's right. Yeah. For example, I have a heat gun, and what I did is I made my giants just grab endless spells. Right, like I have one of them with the pendulum just swinging around. I have another one that I cut his arm and put the Daughters of Cain. That new endless spell with the heart.
Yeah, the heart of fury.
Exactly, and that's his gauntlet. So. It's just you have so much conversion potential, and the best thing again is 9 models or 10 models max in an army, right? 9 little giants and a stomper. So you don't have that many models, so you can really put your heart and passion into it. While when you have to paint 120 zombies, it's dreadful,
And there's only so many bits and kits you can use, but I think it's crazy because anything goes with Gargants. I have one of my Kraken Eaters holding a Deepkin eel, it's literally holding an eel up in its hand. I've got some crazy stuff like the squeak, the Mangler Squeak has like a little guy like riding it, kind of holding for dear life. I've got hit holding on my Taker tribe, like my net. Anything goes, whether it's, bits from endless spells, whether it's big beasts, like I've got a Bloodthirster double axe in one of its hands, and I've got the endless spell shield. Like it's crazy. But then I've seen people, as you mentioned, Vince has got the mechanical Gargants. I've seen people green stuffing skin and making like rock Gargants and like,
Yes.
Stonies type skin. I've got ice. Like I think the conversion and the hobby is just like that alone. And now we are the big bad, but that kind of carried me through the bad times, because I was just having so much fun converting, so much fun painting, so much fun just being an idiot that it eventually became good.
And especially when during these times, that we've been blessed by Papa Nurgle with this pandemic, like we don't really have that much time to play with other people, so we can dedicate more time to the hobby side. And yeah, just like you said, I mean, you can just really put your heart into it and come out with crazy stuff, because anything goes. And also there's like,
I was just going to say, like it looks normal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I was going to say there's also like third-party companies that are coming with amazing sculpts, so you don't have to go only with G-Dub stuff if you don't like how they look at the moment.
I think that's probably one thing is with the Man Crushers, they're all monoposed, and I cut all mine up. So I moved arms, I moved legs. I've got my Man Crushers stomping and kicking and jumping and swinging, and I've gone into very dynamic poses. But to cut up your model, to green stuff, to sculpt, I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, and people aren't confident in doing that. So I can appreciate that not everybody wants 6 of the literally exact same kind of like one kind of move. So that's probably the only kind of like negative I would say with Sons is the Man Crusher. If you go down the Man Crusher build, obviously otherwise it's also expensive, right? Like I've got 3 Mega Gargants, and swapping, like, the changes in points, and we're kind of moving to third, is if I want to run the big boys now, I've got to get 2 wall stompers in, or like that's kind of how I do my 4-drop. But I don't own any war stompers, so I've now got to go buy an extra couple of mega gargants, which is not the cheapest models out there. It's not like adding 30 skinks to my list.
No, yeah, no, completely. I gotta say, I definitely agree with you. If there is one thing, at least on the hobby side, will be, please, G-Dubs, if you're listening out there, update the little man crusher Gargan. Make him like a different pose model that we could have, like just what you said, kicking, stuff like that, for people that are not as comfortable as others with cutting a $90 model,
It's because of where the joints are. Like they join up in the middle of the arm, so it's not like you're connecting, the ball joint, and you can kind of move it around. It's just the way it's cut up. It takes skill, so it's easy to do, and you can manipulate it. But that's probably the only negative I'd probably say. But 3rd edition. So you have actually gone to a tournament. I'm in lockdown. People know this already if they've been watching the channel. So I don't have any tournament experience in 3rd edition just yet, because I'm not allowed to leave my house. But what have you found going from 2nd edition to 3rd edition? Because for all reports, Sons is a massive winner in 3rd edition, where previously we were a struggler at times.
Yeah, I will say, and we were talking about the show, like before the show, stunks, we just hold this little book, with our diamond hands, and it's just been going up. We are currently in the middle of GUR. Monsters are like the cool kids on the block, and what better army than the one that everybody is a monster? It's like an all-inclusive army here. It's a big tent. So I love it. It's been an amazing experience so far, I gotta say.
And then to make things better for us, like, because the world has been, everything's coming up Millhouse. Then recently we got a White Dwarf, and the White Dwarf specifically gives us a new grand strategy. It gives us new battle tactics, and it gives us some battalions, because that's probably one of my frustrations early on, was I couldn't really take advantage of the core battalions. They weren't really fitting to my style, which was in the last edition, I was running 3 megas and a unit of 3 man crushers. So I was running a 4-drop, but I couldn't really do that in a core battalion. But we've now got 2. We've got 2 core battalions, and they're quite good.
Yes, exactly. And that was one of my points, battalions. In 2nd edition, I know a lot of people, myself included, we were a little bit bummed that there wasn't even 1 battalion in our army. You had some crazy abilities out there that other armies had, and we were not privy to those. And, with the new edition, at least for the competitive side, for everybody that is new to the game, the battalions that you have on your books, they're really they don't come into play. In the competitive side, we have the battalions in the General's Handbook, or JHB, and that kind of like leveled the playing field, right? At least for us, that's how I see it. And then the White Dwarfs came out with 2 different battalions for us, and I'm in heaven right now. So I love it.
Let's talk 3rd edition first. Like, let's just go to maybe the fundamentals first, and then I want to go over. I do want to highlight the new rules. Maybe some people haven't seen the White Dwarf, and let's get our thoughts on it. I love the new core battalions, by the way, especially the new White Dwarf battalions for us. But before that, a couple of the changes that happened in 3rd edition. Coherency for you, has that changed the way that you look at Sons?
It does, and the only reason why it does is because we have certain models in our range, especially the Man Crusher Gargants. And from now on, I'll just call them little giants, because that's what I'm used to.
They're the baby Gargants.
Exactly, baby Gargants. And also the Kraken Eater, we have the ability to actually put people in our bag. So before, it was a little bit more tricky. I mean, you could do it, but now with the new coherency rules, you can actually pick certain models, right, and make the opponent lose a lot of models if they don't pay attention. So I would say that is key.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we've always had, especially like being able to pull out unit champions. And I think having elite models in people's units and then being able to remove them, and unless they're like a Bone Reapers, like Mortek Guard or something that can regenerate, you can remove the wizard from the Lumineth Sentinels or Wardens. You could remove those unit champions who are issuing command abilities. So that's a really good one. I think for me, the only other thing from our side is that I felt maybe it's a bit of a disincentive for our man crushers. I think just because of the way, I don't know, like it's a little bit more, I don't know, actually, maybe not so much. I don't know. You maybe ignore me on that one. Like, I know for me, I'm always running the big boys, so I'm not too worried about coherency. But I know for a lot of opponents that, especially if they're running big blocks, like you don't run big blocks of, you run up to 3, so it's not really an issue, actually, now I think about it.
It's not an issue. You're under the 5, and so far I haven't found any issues whatsoever when it comes to that. So yeah, I think for us it's only positives, to be honest, Coach. Yeah. It's just being able to grab people and catch people off guard has been really good.
Yeah, it's definitely a gotcha feel bad moment. So you might find, you don't want to pull out one model, especially if someone strings out and they remove half the Phoenix Guard. They'll remember that lesson again. Table size, how have you found the new table size being a lot smaller for us?
I just think it's great. Having a smaller table allows us to get into the fray even earlier, So when it comes to the different battle plans, and I know we're going to talk about battle plans later on in the show, but right now the closest you can be from enemy models is 18 inches. That's usually 9 inches from your side, from the enemy side, and 9 inches the other way. So 18 inches, if somebody really wants to, try their luck because they underestimate you, I mean, those little giants, you spend a command point to run them 6, all of the sudden that is 14 inches, and you're only 4 inches away from a possible charge of, a little giant mob, which is a unit of 3. So I just really love that it's a smaller table. I can get into the fray even faster.
The other cool thing as well, and Jonathan's pointed out that you can do more turn 1 charges. I found even in the old edition, I could turn 1 charge. You'd slingshot the man crushers off the back of a Mega Gargan who could then run and charge if they were within 12 of a Mega. But now it just means that even your Megas, because you couldn't turn 1 charge with a Mega, but now you can, which is great if you want to. Although I don't really feel the need in turn 1 too, because there are some really easy battle tactics to score in turn 1 that maybe I'm holding off to at least turn 2, unless there is an army that I really need to punch in the face early, like Lumineth, before they start shooting me. Like, there's probably a couple. But
exactly.
The shorter table size as well helped us with, getting our Megas into combat, a bit more range with our shooting. It means that, some of our mid-range kind of shooting is now giving us more options, and we're spread out less as well. Probably one of the hardest missions that I played a few times was Scorched Earth, because you're trying to defend 4 objectives, claim 4 objectives, and then kind of like stretch out across the entire board. So now we don't have nearly as much, spreading out in our army.
Exactly. And I think it's just a huge positive, especially when you're facing, Warhammer, as we know, it is just a rock, paper, scissors, and then there's usually an army like Slanesh when it first came out that is just rock, paper, scissors combined all in one. It doesn't matter what you play, we're going to win. But, one of our biggest threats, are those big shooting armies. And with the table being a little bit smaller, you got to think about it twice, and you have to position twice because I can be in your face really quick, So I think it's just a huge positive for giants,
Yeah. What about some of the other changes that have happened? We've got, the grand strategies, the battle tactics stuff. How have you found scoring? I mean, I think I know the answer immediately, but how have you found things like grand strategies and battle tactics for us?
So battle tactics and grand strategies, we are one of the easiest armies. You either pick the Beastmaster, so keeping a monster alive, or a battle line alive, because all of your models are battle line and all of your models are monsters. So they literally have to wipe you out. And if they wipe you out, we are having bigger problems, So I got to say that it's really easy for us to score at least those 3 points. When it comes to the little battle tactics, like I said, we are in Gur. Monsters have a lot of battle tactics that we get extra points, and you can start out of the gate, picking that battle tactic that you move 3 units with a monster, you get an extra point. You grab a couple objectives and you're all of a sudden, you are 5 to 6 points on turn 1, and now it becomes, now you make your opponent try to catch you up, in points. So it's been great.
Yeah. We obviously do give away victory points when someone pulls down one of our megas, so that's probably the other side of the coin. But yeah, when you look at the battle tactics and the grand strategies, it's definitely in our favor, and most of them are very easy to score for us, and we've got plenty of options with bonus victory points. And the other cool thing as well is we do have one extra grand strategy that came from White Dwarf. The grand strategy, I don't know if you would put this in your rotation, but you score it if a friendly unit run or charges in every battle round. It doesn't have to be the same unit. You just have to run or charge in each battle round.
I've seen that, and honestly, I think the other two are way easier to score.
Yeah.
And when you're in turn 3 or 4, it is hard because if all your units are in combat, all of a sudden you cannot run or charge, and
we don't really have retreat and charge. So that was one of my things. Is like when I was thinking late game, turn 4, turn 5, I don't want to make a decision. Do I continue fighting in combat, or do I have to? No, it's not even retreat. Like I have to run or charge. So at times it could actually be quite hard. And if someone gets into you turn 1 or charges you, then you're pinned. So that's one less unit. So for me, you're right. It's not worth it compared to some of the others.
Exactly. Yeah. But I got to say, though, there is some battle tactics in that White Dwarf that are actually looking pretty good.
Yeah. So I'll read them out for anyone who doesn't have the White Dwarf. So it seems like there's one for each of the for the tribes, although they're not tribe dependent. They seem like they've tried to create one for each of the styles. So you've got, that's mine. So pick one objective on the battlefield, wholly outside of your territory. You score it if it's kicked away, and it's wholly within your territory. So it's requiring essentially a Kraken Eater to kick it back. You've got the wrecking crew that you complete the tactic if a faction terrain is demolished that turn. More focused towards obviously the gatebreaker, but not restrictive to the gatebreaker. But there is one that's keyword dependent, which is the man skittles that it requires you with a War Stomper Mega Gargant to use its hurled body ability, and there's some conditions there. So that now gives us, not only are the existing Gur battle tactics easy for us, maybe these will be more valuable to you when we move out of Gur and maybe we move into a different battle pack and we don't have all of these bonus monster stuff.
Exactly. And I think that out of those 3, the easiest one, as the way I'm thinking about it, it could be like, that's mine, right?
Yeah.
Because that ability says you can kick an objective up to 2d6, right? So you can kick it 2 inches, right? Especially in those battle packs where the objective, it's literally in the middle of your deployment zone and theirs. So you can kick it 2 inches to their side, so it's completely on their side, and then you kick it 3 towards yours, and all of a sudden you completed it. So the way I'm seeing that one, I'm seeing it around turn 4 or 5.
Yeah, you wouldn't do this early, but it's just too risky.
Exactly.
It's just too risky. There's been plenty of times where I've kicked an objective 3 inches or 4 inches, and it basically moves nowhere. So to get it wholly within your territory, like, yeah, you want to go late game, or if you're going with a Kraken Eater with the 3d6 kick instead of the 2d6 kick, then you've got a better chance maybe earlier in the game.
Exactly. No, exactly. The Wrecking Crew, I mean, you're leaving everything to a 2+, right? And they have to have a terrain piece. So that's the other thing. So on a 1,
at least it's a battle. At least it's a battle tactic. At least it's not a grand strategy. So if you find a faction terrain that is aggressive, some armies like the Loon Shrine or the Slanesh Fane, even like OBR, they'll be aggressive with their terrain piece. It's easy. But then some of the things like Herdstones, which are right at the back of the field, then you don't pick that one, or at least you pick it towards the end.
Exactly. And Games Workshop just updated their FAQ. So for all those Sylvaneth players, your prayers have been answered. So now they can, again, put woods not just on their side, right? So if they want to teleport models using the pathways, you can just destroy one of those woods, So it's a little bit, it can be a little bit closer too. So that's good.
No, there's some good options for us. Again, everything is coming up Millhouse for us. Before I talk about the core battalions that we got with White Dwarf, how do you feel about the 3 tribes? We've got three tribes. Do you feel like they're all kind of, and I'm actually going to pull out a comment that I actually saw on Plastic Crack, who ironically enough just jumped in the chat. I saw this little bit of secret list tech that from his article. So if you want to see some good content on Gargants, I definitely check out Plastic Crack blog. Where do you think the tribes are standing in regards to the 3? Do you think one is better than others? 2 out of 3? Where are you standing?
I gotta say that I really still like the Breaker tribe, especially what I'm seeing so far in the tournaments. And I've been having so far 4 tournaments. I'm having another one this month, and there's a lot of hero hammer, right? And you've been talking about that a lot with all the other guests that you had. So I used to have the Breaker tribe with the shiny unes, right? So armor saves of 1, 2, 3, or 4, I get a +1 to hit. I completely changed it to heroes and wizards, because everybody's bringing like these big monsters, and I just love having that +1 to hit. It catches people off guard.
Helps us with people who take the Arcane Tome that make a non-hero. Well, actually, even they're a hero. So yes, you're right. Like, absolutely taking down. I always took my combination was always I took the boss. So I took the hero one. So Bossy Pants and Clever Cogs, and then my general. But I'd also take Shiny-Uns with the general just to get an additional +1. But the comment that I wanted to call out from, again, I'm going to pull up Plastic Crack, was there was a chat happening in the WhatsApp, and I'm not a part of the destruction of the Sons WhatsApp group, but it was in Plastic Crack's article. There was a really good comment that Sons is becoming more popular. I have probably only played the mirror match once in 2nd edition, but a lot of players are picking up Sons, and they're taking up Sons. And what happens when it's Sons versus Sons mirror match? And we're all counting as 20 or 10 against the objective. And I wonder, and this is a really good comment, does the Taker tribe being counting as 30 or 15 help us win that? And if we do take that, what's the trade-off? Because they're probably my 2 favorites. I'm really anti-Wall Stomper, despite what a few people like Jonathan, who's in my Discord, is passionate about his Wall Stomper. I don't like it. The benefits are too good for hordes, but we're not in a horde meta. So I don't know. Maybe you want to convince me otherwise, but I think there might be some really good traction with the Taker tribe, just with maybe the mirror matchup.
So yeah, I've seen a lot of Taker Tribe, and what a lot of people have been talking so far is, you just grab 4 Mega Gargants with the Taker Tribe, you just move them to the objectives, and you just sit there. It's not really the way I like to play. I really like to get it, into the brawl. And if I have a mirror match with a fellow Gargant player, I think, in my opinion, with the Breaker Tribe and the +1 to hit against heroes and wizards, I'll just let them get into the objective, and then I'll just hit them real hard with a unit of 3 little Gargants, which we all know those are the real hammers out of the army, and can do some real damage.
That's the quick lesson, by the way. That is the lesson there. And I've been having chats with other people who are now just picking up Gargants for the first time, and they're like, "Why doesn't my Mega do what I want it to do?" And it's because the Mega isn't the damage dealer. I mean, the Gatebreaker definitely does more damage. Obviously, the Kraken Eater can pull models out of coherency, and it can also pull out champions. It's great, but it is protect your babies as much as possible. I've seen people use the babies as their screen for the Mega, and it's the complete opposite. You've got a screen with the Mega. It can soak up the damage. It's got the better armor save. You can put on Amulet of Destiny. You can throw a +1 armor save, and then you slingshot the 3 or the 1 in, and it does the damage.
Exactly. I gotta say, I love the Stumper. I played a couple of games being a Stumper Tribe, but it's what you said. Like, those games were in 2nd edition. Right now, we don't see those hordes. And actually, that is a good point. That is one of the changes that I had on my notes that I wanted to talk about, and it's the reinforcements, right, in 3rd edition. That is huge. It's a huge change, right? Armies get 4 reinforcements, to plus their units in numbers. So the points have gone up, right? So when you bring a giant into an objective and I count as 20, and you all of a sudden your opponent has to make a greater investment, right? Because it's not just the investment of models, but it's also the investment of the reinforcement that they spent to bring that unit to 20, to bring that unit to 30. And once you take that away, all of a sudden it's like, damn, like I just spent my reinforcement points. Look at Little Morathi over there.
and Little Morathi's made the perfect comment, is if you are watching this because you want to defeat us, that is the key. If you see baby Gargants, you need to kill them. They have a rubbish armor save. They have a rubbish leadership bravery. I've had one run away and it killed me. Because I didn't have enough CP in 2nd edition. And now in 3rd edition, obviously, we can only spend 1 inspiring presence. So if you run two blocks of your baby Gargants, you can only inspire in presence once, and you could force that battle shock and lose 1 on a 5 or a 6, depending on how many you've lost. So for me, it kills me.
So, Coach, funny you mentioned that. On my last game of Summer Slaughter against Joe Cryer, I fell twice, and 2 little giants in my 2 little units, they ran away. I rolled a 6, the only number that they will run away, and I rolled it twice, and it just sucks. So, yeah, definitely target the little giants. Yeah, so definitely what I was saying is with the reinforcements, that is just huge in my opinion, and that it's definitely a plus that we have.
I think probably the only other challenge that I've had in my 3rd edition list construction is that in 2nd edition, I ended up landing on 2 gate breakers in Breaker Tribe. I had 1 Kraken Eater and I had 1 unit of 3 Man Crushers. And that is too many points now. I think it sits at 2025. And the only way I found I could run a list similar to that is if I went down to 2 War Stompers and 2 Gate Breakers, but then I'm sacrificing the Kraken Eater. And I think one of the challenges that I've had looking at those types of lists is that a lot of the tribes only really benefit certain keywords. So Breaker Tribe, Breaker Tribe is only going to give me benefits really to the Gatebreaker. To the War Stomper, it gets no love. If I go to the War Stomper tribe, I'm getting no love for the Gatebreaker or the Kraken Eater. So it's been an interesting, just like, how do I manipulate it? And maybe if, and I know we're going to go through your list, but I think that's probably been one of my challenges, is how do I get the list that I want and get it to work? But I think I've got to trade off some of the keyword synergy and get the most of other parts of the book.
Yeah, and that's where the Taker tribe is not restricted, and everybody benefits. So I'm always turned between those two. Since I'm seeing a lot of heroes, I'm going with the Breaker, but I used to play Taker as well. And the benefit of the Taker definitely is that. And just one thing I wanted to highlight as well, that when we were talking about the changes on 3rd edition, Rally is just huge. And people just don't think about it until you revive 3 little giants in the course of a game. And in theory, you were playing with 2,500 points, because you just roll. Like, I think it was game 3 in Summer Slaughter, or game 2. And I only had 1 giant. My opponent picked Bring It Down, right? Hey, I'm going to kill that little giant. So it was my turn. And it was on his turn. I rolled for the Rally, and I brought 2 little giants. I rolled 2 6s out of the 2 rolls. And you could see that his face was like, oh my God, what just happened? 24 wounds just came into play. And that objective that you thought you had, all of a sudden you don't have it anymore, because I have 30 models there. That, and also Redeploy, just a huge thing that people just take it for granted. And you can do some stuff with Redeploy. You can be aggressive with it.
I've actually capped objectives with Redeploy. So I've redeployed a Gargant that was outside of an objective. I then redeployed them, tagged the objective in range, and then took it, because again, my Mega Gargant's worth 20, or obviously 30 if I'm in the Breaker tribe. Taker tribe. That the other cool thing as well that Third's given us with the White Dwarf is there are 2 new battalions that we've kind of started talking about. And one of the things that I love is you can get more artifacts. And I'm seeing lists where people are taking 3 or even 4 artifacts, which I think is super exciting. I've seen some other crazy list tech. People are taking wizards. They're taking with bridge. People are taking like bridge with their Gargants. I don't get it. I don't know why you'd want to bridge and you'd want to waste so many points in an army that people can easily counter. There's not a lot of wizardy type stuff in our force, but there's some crazy list science going on right now. But the 2 battalions that I really enjoy, and depending on your style, for me, I cheered when I saw Bosses of the Stomp, because it allows me to have up to 4 megas. So I could do double Boss of the Stomp, because it allows you to have, you've got to have 2. So if I'm doing a double, Mega Gargant, I can either go 1-drop Unified, or I could do 2 of them and get an additional artifact on either side, because there's an option. You either go Unified or you go Magnificent. And then you've got the Foot Sloggers that allow you to have 2 Man Crushers up to 3. And you can have an optional Mega, and that allows you to go Unified or Swift. So it's a couple of really good battalions.
Yeah, and in my list, we're going to see it later on, but I definitely use the Bosses of the Stomp. I haven't used the other one that much, because I really like the Hunters of the Heartland on those unit of 3 little Gargants, because those are the guys that I send against Archeon, right? Those are the guys that I send against the big monsters out there that are coming my way. And it's good when I can roar Archeon and he's like pissing his pants and he cannot roar me back, so.
I've had that a few times. I've had that where like I've been fighting with my Marathi and someone roars at Marathi and I really need that +1 to hit. So being able to ignore the +1 or being able to stop them issuing or receiving a command in the combat phase has been really helpful. And I guess if you're going to go down the Man Crusher route, I can definitely see benefit in going under hunters because you want to get as many benefits as possible. There's not many aura, if any, command abilities, so you need them if you want to get the consistency in combat phase. You need to get the all-out attack.
Definitely, yeah. And the Swift is not. So if I pick that battalion, I will definitely use the Unified. The Swift, only one unit can use that. And sometimes the way that we look at those battle tactics, I really want to use that Ferocious Advance, right? The one that you move 3 units at the beginning. And if all of a sudden one of the units is already forward, sometimes it could be a little bit harder and stuff like that. And I don't know. I have to play a couple games to see if Swift really is worth it. But the Unified, it's pretty good.
Yes, if you look, like even if we went regular army, it's 4 drops at best, right? Like, unless you're actually no, sorry, I lie. If you go out and get a lot of ones, if you get a lot of baby gargants as singulars, then obviously you can go more than 4. But on average, you're probably sitting somewhere between 4 and 6 drops. But for me, like I'm probably now leaning towards double Boss of the Stomp and probably going 2 extra artifacts, and that could be Amulet of Destiny, Arcane Tome. It could be something great that's sitting in my, depending on the tribe that I run. There's so many good artifacts in Gargants. The struggle was always I can't get them all, and now I can get 3. And if I go break a tribe. If I go break a tribe, I can take the command trait to get a 4th artifact. So all of my boys could have an artifact.
Taker tribe, you were correct. Yeah, so the Taker tribe is the one that because they have all those treasures and all that stuff. So yeah, they can get an extra artifact. So yeah, correct. I've seen people having like 4 artifacts and just loving it.
And I'm sorry, Empty Wallets, I refuse to acknowledge the Bone Grinder Gargant. When it lost its 6-inch pile-in, it was really good. It was really good before Sons came out because the 6-inch pile-in was awesome, and one great reason. And my argument was always, in the new Bone Grinder, why wouldn't I just take a Gatebreaker? They play a similar role. I would rather a Gatebreaker for the synergies than I would, I don't know. Someone convince me otherwise. I'm not a fan of the Bone Grinder.
Yeah, no, me neither.
I want to, please. No, I want to love it. I just can't.
No, yeah, and I'm really hoping that in the future, and we're going to talk about it later on the units that could be added to the army, but Forge of War could create like a Titan, like if you look at giants, and giant mythology, they could create a Titan, and it's like a big eel, like a bigger giant with like different abilities. But this guy, I mean,
we've seen it. We've seen it in 40K. We've seen they keep increasing the Titan range, so the options are there. Imagine like carrying around like this incredibly massive, like 1,000-point Gargant. That I think overall, like to kind of like bring us back, I think we're feeling quite good. I think Gargants are in a good spot. There's a lot of cool customization. We are the big bads of the game. We're in the big bads of the game because we are heroes. We are monsters. So it means our people can take, majority of our units are able to issue or receive a heroic action. We're able to use the monstrous rampages. We're scoring extra victory points while we're in GURB with the battle tactics. The grand strategies are super easy for us. There's less objectives, so it means we can concentrate our force. And that's probably one lesson that I learned in second ed is don't just send one Mega Gargant out and hope for the best. I was sending them out in power pairs, or sometimes when I come up against something that I really need to kill, like an Archaon, I would run 3 Megas and just absolutely annihilate Catacross, Nagash, whatever it might be, and then kind of spread the force out when I kind of disarmed it. But you can now concentrate with Sons, and it's a lot easier because there's less objectives to worry about. And objective play isn't nearly as important as it used to be. As long as you're scoring 1, 2, or more, that's normally enough.
Exactly. And our shenanigans are still in play, right? So like we don't care about what the battle plan says. Like for us, it's a numbers game, right? So any battle plan that says like, well, you need a hero or stuff like that, I don't care about that. You know, all of a sudden, if I have a giant there, it's a numbers game. So it's huge.
No, I dig
And
it.
also, so some of the battle plans, you know, like they favor us, and I know we're gonna talk about those in a little bit. So
Well, let's bring up your list. Let's actually put this into
yeah,
theory. And I guess let's talk a bit about what you're thinking, because I know your style of list is different to mine, because I'm not a big fan of the man crushers. I think one, because of the model, two, I just don't want to babysit. I feel like with man crushers, I'm always babysitting them, and I don't want to be babysitting. But there's definitely a reason for having them. I'm curious to see how they work in 3E, because obviously the way Rend is kind of working right now, some of those Rend 1 attacks aren't nearly as important. But we've got Rend 3 headbutts as well. So the tools are there. But talk me through your logic. So we've kind of got the Gatebreaker and you've got your Kraken Eater. You've got 2 units of 3 Man Crushers. You've gone the Breaker Tribe. You've gone the Beastmaster. The Triumph is inspired. I love that. It's probably the best one there, at least for us. And as we previously mentioned, you got Boss Fist and Hunters. So Flaming Weapon, big balls there. I'm how often do you get that off compared to not getting it off?
I only have got that once, and I have only played 4 games since the White Dwarf. Because sometimes instead of using the flaming weapon, just like you said, I'm worried about the little 3-man crusher gargants, and I'd rather put Mystic Shield on them if they're going to do something huge. So when it comes to the list, right? Breaker Tribe, I have the Fierce Loathing, Bossy Pants, and Clever Clogs. So that's the one that it's a +1 to hit against heroes or wizards. And just like I mentioned before, I see a lot of people bringing big heroes, and it literally pays dividends. Minus, of course, Morathi, which, yeah, I can only do 3 damage, and it's, yeah, whatever. But everybody else, it helps me get those key targets down with my hammers, which are the 3-man crusher gargants. Beastmaster, again, they have to kill my entire army in order for me not to get it, and I have only not got that one once, and that was against James O'Brien with Morathi and like all the snakes, and like, yeah, it was an interesting game, let's put it that way. The Gatebreaker is definitely my giant, my general, and he has 40 wounds with that 5+ invulnerable save, ward save, which is just amazing. One of the things, though, that players have to remember is that when you look at the table to see when your giant is going down, you know, like how much damage it's taken, it's wounds suffered. Okay, so if you have 40 wounds, you know, those where it
just
breaks,
means to stay at the bottom bracket for longer.
Yeah, you just stay in the bottom bracket for longer. The Kraken Eater, I just use that guy for his utility, which is huge, being able to kick objectives. It's really good, especially in a lot of the battle plans that, you know, you get extra points if it is in the middle, for example, right? Or if it's on the opponent's side, you get extra points. So that's how I see those being used. And then the 3 little gargants, those are my hammers, and those are the guys that I send to do the dirty work. They are the ones that really hit hard in the army, besides the Gatebreaker. And yeah, those are the guys that anything that I charge, more than likely will get killed if I play my cards correctly.
I think there's some interesting things here. Like when I look at this list versus the way I run the Breaker Tribe, and Jonathan kind of called it out earlier as well. And I probably could do a bit of maths hammer to work out what's better and what's not better. Monstrously tough is good, and I've been toying between the two. Do I take the extra 5 wounds so my mega is on a 5-up? Sorry, so I get 40 wounds, or do I go old and gnarly and I get to reroll ones to my save? And I think there's some interesting play, and you could probably look at either way. I guess it depends on, are you dealing with armies who are doing mortal wounds? When you do all out defense or all out attack, do you what's the return on a re-rolling of ones? So maybe someone can math hammer it for me, but I've been toying between the two. I'm not settled.
Yeah, no, and Jonathan, that is a great point. That's the other one that I'm looking at, the re-rolling ones on saves. Because if you're on your best day ever, or like happy
finest
days,
hour. It's finest hour.
Finest hour. I just said it to piss you off. Because I see you say it with the other guests.
I just want to clarify because there's a whole bunch of new people who watch my channel, and they're probably looking through their battle tome, looking through their finest hour. I'm like, what is this? Like best day ever? Sorry, like what is a best day ever? But another one that I was running in the old edition before we got things like the Amulet of Destiny was the Enchanted, is it the Porculus? That gives you the 6-up ward save. And in combination with the amulets, so having 2 ward saves in the army could actually work quite well if you're building around the more durable force. And I love Flaming Weapon, don't get me wrong, but I worry about hitting the Lumineth Realm Lords, the Zench, the Archaons, the all of the different type of spell dom type armies that we don't have enough pluses to cast. I don't want to hug a piece of arcane terrain. And what's the likelihood of getting the Flaming Weapon off? I guess we've got Mystic Shield as well, but I don't know. That's why I'm a bit nervous with Magic, because there's just not enough upside for me.
Exactly, and when you pick the Magnificent, you can pick enhancements out of the core book, the core rules on 27.3. So and especially with the Breaker Tribe, since the other giant is a Kraken Eater, I cannot pick a Kraken Eater, Breaker Tribe artifact and put it on my Kraken Eater. So the one that I have left is the Arcane Tome, and that's why usually I go for that one.
Yeah. But by the way, I say that and because I normally run 2 gate breakers in Breaker Tribe, but absolutely yes, you obviously can't be doing what you just said. So makes complete sense. But I guess if you were to swap that out to the Taker Tribe, then obviously we've got different. You still got the +5 to your wounds if you want. You go the command trait to get the second artifact. So all of a sudden we start. That's how we start getting into the artifact party. And if you go double Boss of the Stomp, then you could have up to 4 artifacts. Exactly.
No. Yeah. Definitely. So that's why I'm also looking at the. Going back to the Taker Tribe, and I definitely want to try that out. Currently, I don't have 4 Mega Gargant models, so I need to buy me a 4th one. But I definitely want to. Yeah, I definitely want to try that 4 Mega Gargant bosses of the Stomp, double bosses of the Stomp list.
I know when I found the most value in the Taker Tribe. The Taker Tribe, I swap so much. That's why I get confused, because I swap so much. But when I go with the Taker Tribe, I know I found a lot of value with my single man crushers being counted as 15. That was probably where I get the most value out of the Mega Gargants. I don't know. The 30 was maybe a bit too much, but now that we're finding more megas kind of in the meta, I think it's probably a good time to revisit, and especially if you start going into mirrors. That difference of 10, because you're right, not a lot of armies are double reinforcing to a point of getting 60 models or even 40 models. Most units can't do that anymore. Probably what Git stabbers, Skaven clan rats, zombies and things like that, skellies and those type of armies are probably the only ones that are going up to maybe 30 plus models.
Exactly. And that's one of the things why I'm still on the breaker, because of the +1 and just because I don't see big units out there. And I really haven't got that many mirror matches. So I really haven't been faced with that dilemma. The other thing about the breaker tribe on my list that people always forget, myself included, is that we get a +1 damage when the enemy unit is wholly garrison or within a terrain feature. And you will say, well, I'll just stay outside of terrain. Well, yeah, sure, but the table is smaller. On a 2,000 point, you have 9 pieces of terrain or 8 pieces of terrain out there. So all of a sudden, you're really restricted to the places that you can go and you cannot go. And there are some battle plans that the objectives fall from the sky on turn 2 or 3. On this last tournament that I was, on my last game, which an amazing player who was actually number 3 on Summer Slaughter, if I'm not mistaken, the objective on his side dropped in the middle of a terrain feature. So all of a sudden, when my little Gargants came to pay a visit, the damage was brutal, you know? So I wouldn't take it for granted. It does happen sometimes.
No, and especially as more people are playing with garrisoning and trying to get so those additional rules around defensible terrain. I haven't found many situations just yet, but at the same time, I think people are still learning the new rules and even things like redeploy. I'm not seeing many people use redeploy just yet, but I think once, give it 6 months, give people actually some proper time to practice and get across it, I think you'll find a lot more defensible terrain being leveraged. You'll probably see a lot more things like redeploy and even rally. I think people are just so used to issuing, you know, certain command points or doing what they used to do in 2E. You almost got to break the cycle. It is interesting though that you got the two units of man crushers. I think for me, like if I'm going down that route, I guess, you know, there's almost an argument, do I go the War Stomper route? And obviously there's pros and cons on either side, but I do like the +1 to hit against heroes and wizards in the current meta, which is a lot of hero monsters. Like I've been doing these list discussions now for almost 2 months, and I'm seeing people throwing in Alariel, you know, Techless, you know, like you can just Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. Like there's just so many hero monsters. People are putting in 1,000 points, maybe even more, and people are trying to find those big, chunky 500-point monsters. And you're going to see, you know, Gordrak. You're going to see more Crushers. You're going to see Stormcast drop a dragon. Who knows? I'm assuming that's going to be a hero. So I think you're in a very good spot to respond to whoever you play at a tournament.
Exactly, and since my little Gargants are in Hunters of the Heartland, all of the sudden for them is a negative return on investment, right? They put 500 points of their 2,000 on a monster that I'm going to have a +1 to hit, and you cannot affect me whatsoever with your monster actions. You know, so that's the way I'm seeing it so far.
Yeah, no, I dig it. No, I dig it. I'm just looking at Taker Tribe as well. I think Taker Tribe is very similar. You've got some cool things you can possibly do. It doesn't do nearly as much damage as the Breaker Tribe. And you're playing a bit more conservatively. You're playing a bit more like, you know, a bit cagey. I found that I was playing a bit more cagey as opposed to getting into combat. While the Stomper, I think, the War Stomper for me, I haven't quite cracked the code just yet. Maybe you've got some ideas, but the Stomper Tribe for me, I'm just not seeing the Horde benefits. Although playing with the War Stomper, I do like it now. I must admit I've become a fan. It's not my favorite, but I don't think it's trash. Previously I was like, no, I want nothing to do with that thing because it's slow. It's you know, attacks are mostly based on like hordes, but I'm actually okay with it now, and why I'm okay running a 4-drop and having at least 1, maybe 2 Stompers.
Yeah, no, again, I played a couple games with the Stomper Tribe on 2nd edition, and they were a lot of fun. a lot of fun. I just don't see the numbers right now, Coach. Like I don't see,
Yeah,
those
I'm with
30
you. I think
I don't see that kind of stuff anymore. So
actually, I will say one. I have actually seen it in Soulblight. That's probably where I'm seeing it right now. I'm seeing big blocks of Graveguard. I'm seeing big blocks of skellies and zombies that are regenerating and getting over their max size. It might help you with Tzeentch, although pink horrors have slightly changed. So there is some argument in some areas. Legion of the First Prince is kind of building around those kind of those demons and Tzeentch, but I think you're right. I think Taker and Breaker Tribe are probably the two, give or take, and maybe Breaker's a little bit higher.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely against look at that, Jonathan. Jonathan is just
he's also a Greywater fan. He's also a Greywater fan, and I've told him Greywater is my second least favorite of the cities of Sigmar.
He's all in, and I love that. I think, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try it a little bit more, and anybody that is listening, I highly recommend the Discord that Coach has. I mean, there's a big Gargan community there, and as soon as I have some games on that, I'll definitely post it. And we are always like stomping around there, and sharing what we can do to get better. So I don't know. I'll definitely try it, Jonathan. I promise.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think we're in a good spot either way. What is there? Have you learned, like, why wouldn't you go with, and I know obviously points aside, and maybe some people are thinking about, I don't want to have two big blocks of man crushers. What about, a couple of small ones, having a couple of, single babies to run around and give them a bit more flexibility? What are your thoughts on, the having multiple units of one versus a unit of three? Sorry, I was just laughing because Endless Chalk was saying he wants Miss Tarvin. I can tell you right now, I don't think you're getting a Miss Tarvin show. That's like pushing shit uphill. I'm sorry, but I'm not. But yeah, like, where are you at in regards to the 3 versus 1? Do you see any pros and cons between going 1s over 3s?
I like the 3s because I rally a lot, believe it or not. And I always love that opportunity to rally some of the giants and continue going forward, just like a mad truck that has lost its brakes. The little giants, the benefits that I see are especially with Unleash Hell, right? Like, there's been a couple games where I have brought that little giant to charge a unit of Lumineth archers, and all of a sudden they have to waste their Unleash Hell on that little giant. So that's my sacrificial lamb, and then all of a sudden I charge with the other one. I also like the ability just to have a giant out there and control an objective, against units that can teleport and stuff, and I'm not spending 490 points, which is a unit of 3, protecting objectives in my backline. The good thing also, though, is that, just like you mentioned before, Coach, like, there is less objectives, the table is smaller. So if all of a sudden I get teleported in the back or something happens, I can redirect my boss and try to hit it that way, So I have played with them. I'm just a bigger fan of having units of 3. Power numbers.
Yeah, and I guess it's good to know, just because some people might be thinking about this, like, what do I do? Do I separate them into units of 1, which means that I can leverage more of things like Hunters of the Heartland. I could go, Boss of the Stomp and get 3 megas, and then go Hunters and go single 1s, because I wouldn't be able to do that with a unit of 3. So just some considerations. I guess the argument against that as well would be, if you've got a home field objective, you could always use the Kraken Eater to kick it, so you don't have to kind of sit someone at the back babysitting and wasting 500 points on a babysitter. You could kind of kick it with you, but then you are at the risk of it being closer to your opponent and could be scoring it. But to Jonathan's point as well, like, that's probably one of the big reasons why I really dislike Stomper, is because it's restrictive, and I'm not a big fan of the man crushers. And because I'm not a big fan of the man crushers, it means that I'm not getting benefit to the things that I want to put on the table. So it's not that I don't like it. It's just for my type of style, I'm not getting the value, and it's forcing me into a build that I don't like.
Exactly. No, and he definitely hit the nail on the head. Like, just being restricted in an already, in my opinion, restricted army due to war scrolls. Right? We only have really 4 war scrolls. I mean, that number 5 is a little bit questionable, but you know, I want to play with the little 4 war scrolls that I have the way I want to play it, and being restricted when it comes to those command abilities. Yeah, it's a negative for me.
Let's talk about the future. Let's do some pie sky prediction. I know you were excited about having some, like, what would you like? We talked about the Titan. Is there anything that you'd like to see from Sons moving forward? I mean, hey, we've gotten new battalions. Like, would you be excited about a Lumineth book where you get another updated book 12 months later, and there's like a whole half of the range to come? So we go from 4 to 8.
Yeah, I would love that. And I think, you know, we were talking before the show went live. I heard you the other day, you know, like the Cities of Sigmar has 60 war scrolls, right? And that's not even counting the Stormcast that you can add, right? So, but, you know, when you have that many war scrolls and you see the meta transforming, you see Iron Drakes. Then you go see Phoenix Guard. Then it goes back to Iron Drakes, right? So, yeah, you have the, but sometimes it's a little bit quite saturated, right? Now, when you have 4 war scrolls, you can only go up. You can only go up from here. So one of the big things that I would love to see is kind of like a storyteller giant, right? A lot of the stories that giants tell each other on their tribes are through storytelling, and storytelling is the big thing in human history, real human history, right? So I would love to see like some giant with, you know, pains all over. You know, he or she is a storyteller. Female giants, I know somebody mentioned that on the chat.
Yeah.
You know, and through their stories, right? They generate magic. So kind of like a wizard giant.
Like a priest. Like, actually, I was expecting a priest. I imagine some type of like troll hag equivalent. It doesn't have to be a hag, but just some type of because that's in the lore. In the lore, they do talk a lot about the oral storytelling and just how they do things. Also, big love to Age of Empty Wallets, who opened and emptied his entire wallet and gave me some biddies. So thank you for not making me have to stuff you in my pants or my sack. I assume you have more than 3 wounds, so I appreciate that you did it. But yeah, like, that's probably the word I wanted to say. Like, some type of matriarch type, you know, female figure would be awesome. I'd love to see some type of some type of wizard. I think one other reason why I love the Breaker tribe, and I know some people are like, Breaker tribe's boring, but it gives me consistency in the shooting attack. I think that's what I've really enjoyed. Is the shooting attack is, you know, outside of the Breaker tribe with the +1 to hit, has been really inconsistent, but being able to throw something and expect some good damage has been huge. So for me, especially with the man crushers, at least gives me other threats, because otherwise sometimes I just can't get through these, you know, impenetrable walls. I can't get to those key heroes that I really need to, because I don't have other shooting. I don't have a lot of good magic, and I'm stuck there fighting a way that might not win.
Exactly. And that's another giant that I would love to see, a giant that has some good shooting abilities. Now, we did talk about it before the show went on, and yeah, I definitely see your concerns with, you know, we count as extra models, we are high wounds, and all of a sudden we have a shooting piece out there that but, you know, G-Dubs could, you know, there's so much giant mythology, you know, and a giant that throws you know, lightning bolts or something, you know, like the giant that you see in Greek mythology. That would be really cool. And then there's another one that I was thinking about, Coach, and it's kind of like you know, in the book, you see that giants are mercenaries, right? At large. So I would really like to see like a smaller giant, not like a big one, but between the big giant and the little giants. And that guy's kind of like a negotiator, right? Like that's the guy that goes and talks to the human tribes and all that stuff on behalf of the big giant, right? And that is more of a support piece, you know?
I love
A little giant that is supporting everybody.
It's like basically, look, guys, we're about to raid your village. You either can give us your stuff or we're gonna stomp you. Interesting question though came up from was it Endless? Yeah, Endless Chorf as well. Like the lessons that we've learned kind of playing man crushers. Do you have man crushers, or are you if you are playing in a gut buster, would you be a man crusher or would you be an ale guzzler gargant? Because if you're an ale guzzler gargant, I think what I've learned is, because I play with them in Gits, there's some really inconsistency, especially if you like roll a double on the charge and you trip over, and it's not as supported. I don't know. There's some good stuff with it. For me, you're getting a little distraction piece really that can soak up some damage. But I think for me, like in Gut Busters or even in Destruction in general, you either should just put those points into something you've got naturally, or find a few extra points and get yourself a mercenary mega gargant, where, depending on which army you play. I think we're seeing a lot of those actually. I'm seeing Death bringing in a lot of the mega mercenaries. I'm seeing cities bringing in the Kraken Eater. I'm seeing a lot of gargants coming in as a mercenary. So,
no, yeah, definitely. In Summer Slaughter, there were quite a lot of armies, and I think.
I've seen them in Slaanesh, I've seen them in Nighthaunt, I've seen them in, like, there's so many armies.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely think there was, I seen a couple of the death ones, the Breaker, just bringing havoc on the table with the death armies. So yeah, definitely.
And by the way, if you're watching this thinking I'm going to bring myself in a mercenary mega gargan, just know that the mercenary doesn't count as 20. It'll only count as the 5, which is what our new monsters, whatever it is. Other obviously ogres get counting as 10, but your mega will only count as 5 if it's a mercenary mega. It doesn't bring in that 20 rule with you. And with mercenaries, I think they're good. I think they're definitely worth it. I think it's just the trade-off. Like if I'm dropping 500 points, is it worth it? What am I giving up? And what is it bringing to the table? Are you just looking for a 35 wound, punching bag that you don't have a lot of durability in your army? And I'm looking for something to sit on an objective and just hold it to get me some additional battle tactic points. Cool, could be great. If you're adding it for combat, obviously there's a lot of, destruction armies especially are so swingy that, again, why we love Breaker's Tribe so much is to get that consistency, especially like the Gatebreaker, for example. Love the Gatebreaker, but you notice between being in the Breaker Tribe versus a Taker Tribe, just how different that Gatebreaker is, just getting the +1 to hit. It's just huge.
Exactly. And somebody mentioned the Nighthound. That was the army that I saw with the Gatebreaker. And I think I don't have my BCP on right now, but I think that person ended up in the top 10 or 15 out of 100 people having Nighthound with the Gatebreaker. So it's definitely there's use there. And the cool thing is that they bring something that the armies might not have, right? Like you have the damage on the Gatebreaker. The Kraken Eater brings that awesome utility of kicking things. So, they always have something that it's a plus.
Yeah. There's also one thing we forgot to talk about that might be worthwhile calling out here, because a lot of people forget about it. And I played a game yesterday and my opponent forgot about it too. And that is the command ability for Gur, where it allows me to fight at the top of the bracket. So it is a combat one. So if you use all out attack somewhere, you can use this somewhere else, especially if your mega is wounded. It's a really good one to pull out your sleeve to fight at your top bracket, especially if you're getting multiple attacks with the flail, your damage is starting to get degraded. Really good one to remember, because a lot of people forget about that one.
Yes, definitely, and especially when you can go from, I think it's like the minimum is 6 or 5 flail attacks. When you're in the last bracket of the breaker, all the way back to 10. So definitely, please use that if you have a command point, and and you're fighting a hero, so all out attack, it's not worth it. You're gonna die anyways because you're low wounds. Just use that one and do as much damage as you can.
Yeah. Anything else you'd want to add to the Suns chat before we kind of wrap things up? I think overall, like when I look at this, there's probably no one clear winner list. There's a couple of interesting list ideas you can manipulate. The tribes, I think we've got 2 out of 3 really good tribes. I'd love to see some Stomper tribe list tech, and whether you put it in the comment section or in Discord or wherever it might be. I haven't quite seen the list science just yet, but that's also because I'm not super invested into Man Crushers. But I think overall, the battle pack is really good for us right now. The new White Dwarf rules help us, especially when we move out of Gur, whenever that might be. I know White Dwarf had some rules for Hish, so is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? Is it 3 months? Who knows? But I think that'll help us. There's a lot of cool things for us. I think everything is Millhouse for us.
Yeah, the only thing I had on my notes that I wanted to just remind people is just take a look at the battle packs. And there is like a couple of those that you can pull some shenanigans with the Kraken Eater. So for example, Tooth and Nail on page 38 of the GHB, right? So the objectives that are located wholly within players' territories are prime objectives. So you can kick that top objective inward towards your side of the table, and all of a sudden that is a prime objective. So it cannot be burned on that turn 3 by your opponent. So all of a sudden you're controlling the objectives, and you can control your force and actually direct it where it's going to do damage. And the other one is Savage Gains, right? It has just been updated on the latest errata, and you score 2 points for each objective that you control that is not on the border, right? So you can kick that objective on the border to the middle, and then all of a sudden you're scoring 2 points a pop. So you can start racking up points early. So those are the 2 things that I forgot.
That's it. And that's why things like Amulet of Destiny, things like anything to give you like an extra ward save, using the heal. So instead of using extra command point, probably healing up your megas, like the more durability you can get into the list. And if you're going into getting, an Arcane Tome, maybe you want to get Emerald Life Swarm in the list, because the longer your Gargants stay on the table, the more points you score. It's not about killing your opponent. It's about how long you sit on the objective. You deny your opponent from scoring. You get those battle tactics. And the longer your Gargants are on the table, the less likely you'll give away those victory points for them slaying one of your monsters. So probably why the ward stuff is just so good for us right now in conjunction with healing.
Exactly. And if you let me, Coach, just one more thing, and this is a reason why play Gargants. It's just like I've been having so much fun playing Gargants, and like when just play Gargants against a Lumineth player, how much bookkeeping that person has to do, and how little you have to do, right? Like
the mental stress, even from deployment.
Yes. And when you're like on those big tournaments and you have like 5 games, right, on day 2, just look at a Lumineth player. Like they're hating their life playing their army, and we're just loving it, right? We're just going extra times to the free beer stand, right? Because your turns are like 15 minutes, and that poor guy is counting beans trying to make things happen. So I'm telling you,
I remember the hero phase.
Like
you do hero phase, you're like, lol, I turn the command point dial, movement. Like that was literally it. Like that was literally the hero phase. You're like, yep, turn my dial to get a command point. Obviously now we have heroic actions and a few other things, but like it's so liberating being able to like one model, and then you go into your phase. And really all I'm worried about, especially because I'm not playing a lot of Man Crushers, is I really only have to worry about shooting, charge, and combat. That's really, and even then, like my shooting, I've got such limited shooting. It's just like, what can I pick that can do a little bit of chip damage? And then the charging again is just simple. So it's very, very liberating. and you feel mentally refreshed. Like it's just the best day ever.
Yes.
And yes, I did say that on purpose.
And I will invite people to definitely go see your other video on what to bring to tournaments, because that literally saved my life on this summer slaughter. I have my little backpack with like ibuprofens because, for that possible headache, I have my little external battery and stuff, so yeah, definitely take a look at that video, because if you're going to one of these big tournaments and it's your first time, it's going to help you out a lot.
I think for me, it's like the most liberating thing is it's like I have no tricks. I just have fists. That's literally all I have. Like when I rock up to the table and people go, "What do you do?" I'm like, I don't have reserves. I don't summon. I don't have magic. I can't teleport. I don't have this. I don't have this. It's like Vince had his massive laundry list. This is what I do. I count as a lot of models. These guys can run and charge. I'm going to sit on the objective. I'm going to punch you in the face. What else do you want to know? And like people are like, okay, no, really, like what else do you have? I'm like, that's it. Yeah. I just walk up and I just do my thing. And I think that's why I've really enjoyed Sons, and I would highly recommend anyone pick it up, play with it, because it's so refreshing and it's a lot of fun. And you do stupid things. You run in, you stuff things in your bag, you throw things, you laugh, because destruction is so inconsistent. Consistency is inconsistency in destruction. So any way you can get the pluses to hit, all that good stuff. But I have a lot of love for Sons. I love them. They're such a great. But if people want to chat to you more, Horacio, where can they find you? You're in my Discord. So again, link and stuff and all that is below. Are you on the Twitterverse or Instagram, or people want to sign up to your OnlyFans? Like where are you at?
I've been thinking about OnlyFans. No, it's just I'm just in the on the Discord that you have. So it's an amazing community, and I highly recommend anybody that is interested to join. Just go out there, and I'm actually signed to all of the chats for all of the armies, so I can get the latest and greatest from the people that play the best.
No, I dig it. Yeah, absolutely. You just roll dice and you just smash face. That's literally it.
That's right.
And and if you win the double turn, you do some more smashing in the face. If you lose the double turn, you laugh because you're like, wasn't going to do much anyway. I was just going to sit on this objective. I was going to swing at you. And but I tell you what, I remember going to a tournament, one of the last tournaments I had in second edition. Again, I can't play any third edition tournaments, being housebound. But at one tournament, I played Archaon, Marathi, and Nagash, and I beat those three, and I dropped 2 games, and they were like the non-god hero ones. One was against 150 skinks. Yeah, no, Jonathan, we're not talking about bridge gargants. I think it's ridiculous. I think you've lost the plot. Like if you 5-0 a tournament with bridge gargants and you've beaten Lumineth, like I'll kudos you, but I think that's just you've lost the plot. Horacio, thank you so much for all this. This is a fun chat. I love it. The White Dwarf stuff has just gone from great to outstanding. We didn't even need these rules, and we're already in a really good spot. I think it's just pick your flavor and then build around it, whether it's Stomper, Breaker, or Take a Tribe, whether you want to run bigs or smalls. I think, there's minor changes here and there, but run what you want to run. It's all, you'll have a great time either way.
Definitely.
All right, well, I'm going to have lunch. Thank you for your time, and we'll chat in Discord. And let me know in the comment section what you think, how you're running it. Prove me wrong that the Bone Grinder is great. Prove me wrong that the Stomper tribe is the best tribe out there. I'm going to make those claims because I don't like the Bone Grinder. I don't like the Stomper tribe. If you have some opinions and you want to tell me why, comment section stuff, tell me, because I don't believe you. I don't. I truly don't believe you. I don't believe the Bone Grinder has a place in our army, and I don't believe that the Stomper tribe is nearly as good as Breaker or Taker. Prove me wrong.
So, exactly. No, please prove me wrong as well. And I definitely want to see that bridge Gargan list. So we can have that conversation on the Discord.
If I'm taking an endless spell, I'd rather take Life Swarm. I'd rather take some other type of cogs. I'd rather take, there's so many other endless spells that I'd rather take that's not bridge. Even if I'm going down this wizard route, like, I don't understand. All right, I'm going on a weird rant. I'm going to stop. Horacio, thank you for your time, and I hope to see you in more tournaments soon.
Thank you, Coach. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
No, mate. It's all good. See you, folks. Thanks for sticking around until the end. I hope you found that video interesting and you walked away with a few new ideas. If you did, I would appreciate it if you hit like on the video, as well as left me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. The conversation will continue over on Discord, so links down below in the episode description if you want to join the Discord and continue the Age of Sigmar conversation. I want to give a massive shout out as well to these absolute bloody legends, these champions who have continued to support me through Patreon or YouTube members. That is going directly into supporting the maintenance and the growth of this channel. So thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. And until next time, roll more sixes.